The storm rolled in faster than anyone expected, tearing across the coastline with a rage that split clouds and churned the sea into white-foamed monsters. Miles from the nearest city, on a forgotten stretch of beach, a single figure ran through the winding sand dunes, soaked in rain and ocean spray. His name was Daniel Reed, a 35-year-old single dad, former rescue diver, and the kind of man who answered danger before he answered his own fears. He had taken the evening off to bring his 7-year-old son, Liam, to the pier. The boy loved storms, loved watching the waves crash like giants battling in the dark. But when lightning struck too close, he had rushed the boy into the truck to head home early. He never expected to see the burning streak of metal fall out of the sky. The private jet came spiraling down like a wounded bird, fire swallowing its right wing, engines screaming as they tore against the storm. It disappeared behind the cliffs with a thunderous crash that sent shockwaves through the ground beneath Daniel's feet. Liam screamed and covered his ears. Daniel's heart hammered, and every instinct he had honed during his years in the rescue unit came roaring back to life. He knew there were seconds, maybe minutes, before the wreck sank beneath the furious ocean. He clutched Liam's shoulders, crouching to meet his terrified brown eyes. "Listen to me, buddy. Stay inside the truck. Lock the doors. No matter what you hear, don't come out unless I call you, okay?" Liam swallowed, tears trembling. "Daddy, what if you don't come back?" Daniel forced a small, steady smile, brushing the boy's hair back. "I always come back, always." With that promise carving itself into the moment, he sprinted toward the cliffs, wind howling like a beast trying to knock him down. The burning smell grew stronger. The beach shook with smaller explosions as metal groaned under stress. When he reached the edge and peered down, the wreckage lay half submerged, waves slamming over the fuselage. Flames hissed out with every violent splash. Inside, through a shattered window, a figure was slumped, unmoving. A woman. And not just any woman. He recognized her even through the smoke and blood streaking her forehead. Cassandra Vale, the notorious 32-year-old billionaire CEO of Valetech Aerospace. He had seen her face on magazines, screens, billboards. People called her ruthless. A genius, a machine. The youngest CEO in the aviation world. The woman behind the jet now sinking before his eyes. None of that mattered now. She was just a human being moments from drowning. He slid down the wet rocks with practiced precision, ignoring the cuts tearing across his forearms. The tide surged around his legs as he reached the side of the plane. He yanked open the warped emergency hatch with a grunt, cold seawater rushing out and nearly knocking him off balance. Inside, the cabin was flooded up to the seats, debris floating everywhere. The storm made the interior creak as if the plane itself was begging to be released to the deep. "Hey, hey!" he shouted, wading through the chaos. Cassandra's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. She tried to push herself up, groaning in pain. Her breathing was shallow, wrong. A broken rib, maybe more. Her gaze locked on him. You have to get out," she whispered weakly. "The fuel, pressure. Another explosion. Not without you." He slid an arm under her back, lifting her with careful, practiced steadiness. Her head dropped against his chest and he felt her trembling. Whether from cold pain or terror, he didn't know, but he held her tighter. The ceiling groaned. Metal popped. Water surged in harder than before. He carried her out through the hatch just as the jet gave one final, monstrous shriek. "Hold on!" he shouted, leaping from the edge of the plane into the raging surf. The explosion behind them was deafening. A blast of heat rushed over his back. Daniel shielded Cassandra with his body as debris hit the water around them. Waves crashed like fists trying to rip them apart, salt burning their eyes. He kicked with every ounce of strength left in him, pushing through the darkness toward the shoreline. When his feet finally touched solid sand beneath the water, he staggered upward, half dragging, half carrying Cassandra until her back lay safely on the wet shore. She coughed weakly, shuddering, and he pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Her pulse fluttered but held. He grabbed her wrist gently. "Stay awake. You're safe." Her lips parted. "Who are you?" "Just a dad who couldn't watch you drown." A tiny, broken laugh escaped her, then she passed out. Hours later, Cassandra awoke in a small, warm living room smelling faintly of coffee and old books. Rain battered the windows of the modest beach cabin. A blanket was wrapped around her, a bandage across her temple. The fire crackled. She tried to sit up and winced as pain shot through her side. A young boy rushed forward with wide eyes. "Daddy, she's awake!" Daniel came from the kitchen, relief softening his normally rugged features. He carried a steaming cup of tea and knelt beside her. "Take it slow. You inhaled a lot of seawater. You've got a cracked rib and a nasty concussion." She stared at him, her memory slowly assembling. "You pulled me out." He shrugged lightly. "Couldn't let you sink with your own plane." A ghost of amusement crossed her face. "It wasn't my best landing." "No," he agreed, "but I've seen worse." Silence settled, gentle, almost fragile. Cassandra studied him with a sharper gaze this time. Tall, strong-built, eyes like storm-soaked blue granite, yet warm somehow. Not a hint of fear or greed in his expression. Just concern, real human concern. People didn't look at her like that. People saw her as power, as wealth, as a negotiator to fear. But this man didn't want anything. He had risked his life for her without hesitation. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "Because you needed help." It was the simplest answer, but it felt like a punch to her chest because simplicity was something she hadn't known in a decade. Daniel stood. "I called emergency services. The roads are blocked because of the storm, but they'll be here soon." She nodded, but her gaze drifted to Liam, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor drawing pictures with crayons. One showed a giant wave and a small stick figure, pulling another stick figure from a burning plane. She swallowed. "He saw the crash?" Daniel nodded. "He's tougher than he looks." Cassandra's voice softened. "He's lucky to have you." Daniel smiled faintly. "I'm the lucky one." A quiet moment stretched, warm despite the cold storm outside. Then she said it, the thing she wasn't ready to admit even to herself. "You saved my life. I owe you more than I can ever repay." Daniel shook his head. "You owe me nothing." But he was wrong. She owed him everything. The next morning, paramedics arrived and took Cassandra to the nearest hospital. She tried to convince Daniel to ride with her, but he refused, promising instead to bring Liam to check on her later. He didn't ask for her number, her card, nothing. That alone made Cassandra more curious about him than she had been about anyone in years. 2 days later, she woke in a private hospital suite, one arranged by her company. Her team had flooded her with messages and demands. Reporters begged for statements. Lawyers wanted answers about the crash. But her mind kept drifting back to the small cabin, the warmth of the fire, the stranger who spoke to her like she wasn't a billionaire or a CEO, just a woman who needed saving. The first person she asked to see wasn't her CFO. It was Daniel Reed. Her assistant blinked in confusion. "Ma'am, the man from the beach?" "We don't have any contact information for him." Cassandra frowned. "Find it." When her assistant hesitated, she added, "Please." The softness in her tone startled them into action. Hours later, Daniel walked into her hospital room with Liam's hand in his. He looked uncomfortable in the pristine white hallways, like a rugged oak tree planted in a marble palace. "You look better," he said with a cautious smile. She smiled back, something bright and real. "Thanks to you." Liam bounded to her bedside. "I drew you another picture." He handed her a colorful drawing of her standing strong on a beach with a cape. "You don't look scared anymore," he declared proudly. Emotion tightened her chest. "Thank you, Liam. I'll treasure it." Daniel cleared his throat. "We just wanted to make sure you were okay." Cassandra stared at him for a long, silent second. "Daniel, I've had time to think. And I want to help you now." He frowned. "Help me?" "You saved my life. I want to do something for you in return." Daniel crossed his arms gently, shaking his head. "I don't need anything." "Yes," she said softly, "but what about your son?" His jaw tightened. A flicker of vulnerability passed through his eyes, something raw he tried to hide. "I'm doing fine," he said. She didn't believe him. And she wasn't leaving without the truth. She asked him to sit with her while Liam played with a toy plane the nurse had given him. Cassandra's face softened as she studied the exhaustion in Daniel's eyes, the weary strength in his shoulders. "You were a rescue diver," she said. "Why did you leave?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "My wife passed away when Liam was 3. Cancer. After that, I couldn't stay in a job that kept me away from him for days at a time. I needed something steady, something safe. Even if it paid less." Cassandra's heart twisted. A single dad who gave up the career he loved to protect his son. A man like that was priceless. "What do you do now?" she asked gently. Handyman jobs. Boat repairs. Whatever keeps the lights on. And is that enough? He hesitated, and in that hesitation she heard the quiet truth. No, she whispered. It isn't. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't want pity. This isn't pity, she said. This is gratitude. And maybe something more. He looked up sharply at her tone. Cassandra leaned forward. I want to offer you a job at Vailtech. Rescue Operations Director. You'd train our pilots on emergency responses. You'd help redesign safety protocols. Your experience is beyond invaluable, and the salary is significantly better than what you're earning. He stared at her as though she had spoken in another language. That's Cassandra, that's too much. No, she whispered. It's exactly what you deserve. He looked torn, scared, hopeful, and lost. Liam peeked up. Daddy, does that mean we get a bigger house? Daniel stared at his son, then at Cassandra, and the truth landed. He needed this. But he needed something else too. Why are you really doing this? He asked quietly. Because I saved you? Or because you feel guilty? She shook her head. Because you saved me, yes. But also because you're the kind of man I want in my company. The kind of man I want in my life. His breath caught. And so did hers. Silence stretched between them. Not tense, not fearful, but electric. Finally, Daniel spoke. I'll think about it. But Cassandra already knew. He would say yes. Not because of her offer, but because he deserved a future as bright as the one he always tried to give his son. Weeks passed. Daniel accepted the job. And Cassandra found more and more reasons to visit the training hangar where he worked. What started as business discussions turned into shared lunches. Shared lunches turned into walks on the pier with Liam. Walks turned into late-night calls. Calls turned into laughter that made Cassandra feel like a woman again instead of a corporate machine. One evening, after a long day of training exercises, Daniel drove Cassandra home at her request. She lived in a penthouse overlooking the city, a stunning place of glass and steel. But tonight she didn't guide him there. Take the left, she said softly. He followed the winding coastal road until she told him to stop at a secluded overlook with a lone wooden bench, facing the sunset. This was where my father used to bring me, she said quietly. Before he died, this was the only place where I felt free. Daniel nodded, sitting beside her. I get it. Places hold people. She turned to him, wind brushing her hair across her cheeks. Daniel, the night you pulled me out of the water, I thought I was going to die. And the only thing I regretted was that I had spent my whole life building an empire instead of building a life. He felt her hand brush against his. Since then, she continued, every day feels different. Because you remind me what living actually feels like. Daniel's voice came out low, rough. Cassandra? She took a shaky breath. I'm not asking for promises or definitions. I just want to know if you feel it too. He looked at her, truly looked. At the woman he saved. At the woman who was now saving him in ways neither of them expected. He reached up, gently touching the scar on her forehead from the crash. I felt it the moment you opened your eyes on that beach. Her breath hitched. And when he kissed her, slow, tender, certain, the crashing waves below sounded like applause. Liam, fast asleep in the back seat, never stirred. Months passed and the three of them became something like a family. Cassandra spent weekends at Daniel's small cabin, cooking with Liam, laughing more freely than anyone at Vailtech had ever seen. She funded new community programs for widows and single parents, telling her board it was good business, but Daniel knew the truth. She was rebuilding not for the world but for herself. One afternoon, while Daniel and Liam assembled a kite on the beach, Cassandra received a call from her board. They demanded she choose, continue her relationship with Daniel, a man they deemed unfit for corporate optics and or risk losing control of her seat. Cassandra laughed, a sharp, confident sound. Then she told them something that shocked them speechless. I won't choose between the man who saved my life and the company I built. If you want a CEO who plays pretend for public image, find someone else. She hung up before they could respond. Hours later, the board voted unanimously to keep her, because losing Cassandra Vail meant losing the billions she generated. She told Daniel that night, standing barefoot on the shore with the waves whispering at their feet. I chose us, she said quietly. Daniel wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. I didn't know we were an us. She smiled up at him. We are now. Liam burst between them with the kite, shouting, We're a team! Yes, Daniel thought. A team, a family, a future. All because one stormy night a single dad pulled a billionaire CEO from